what happened was we got the charges dropped because the little old lady was cheating on her husband
No.
with a guy that my father knew.
Welcome back to the Goodfellow Podcast. In this episode, we're joined by former Bonanno associate Mr. Joe Barone, who is here today to share his first-hand account of his role in the street gang known as the Third Street Boys. Welcome back to the show, Joe. How you doing today?
Good, thanks. Appreciate it. Just want to give a shout out to my brother, my friend, Dominic Cicali, and his James Proctor podcast that I saw with him. Good work, Dominic. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's up to Dominic to say anything else. And we will hopefully be together soon, answering a lot of the questions that a lot of people had sent in. He's been busy, but we will be together again soon.
Absolutely. So first off, I just want to ask you, where was the Third Street Boys primarily located?
We were the west end of New Rochelle. Actually, was 3rd Street, so that's why we call ourselves the 3rd Street Boys. We had shirts and all kinds of stuff like that. But we were located in New Rochelle, New York, and some of us lived up in the west end of New Rochelle. But we were just in the New Rochelle area, even if you didn't.
And who was your guys' leader, or I guess kind of who started the Third Street Boys?
Yeah, I don't know if there was any real a leader type of dude, but I believe Paulie Cerricelli, who passed away now, and I'm kind of pissed off that I wasn't able to go to his wake or see him at his house when he was sick. But
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Yeah, he was Paulie was a really good guy. Everybody liked him. I don't think anybody had a bad word to say about him, but he was a boxer too, a funny guy. And he somehow put it all together with all of us. So I think he's really the one who originated it.
And how did you first get involved with the Third Street Boys?
Back in the 70s, late 70s at New Rochelle High School, I guess there was some racial tension going on there between the blacks and the whites. I don't know why. I had a lot of really good friends, blacks if you want to call them that or whatever. I had a lot of good friends like that, girls and guys. As a matter of fact, I lived right near the projects growing up. So, but I guess there was some racial tension. Not everybody's on board with just being cool. So, my friend Donnie had asked me to take a walk with him to the bathroom because of what was going on, and he didn't want to walk in there alone. So, of course, I said yeah. So I did. I walked him back to the bathroom. We went walking between a bunch of dudes, and guy said something to me. It happened to be, I think his name was Sean Landrown or something like that. I forget his name. They used to call him Spot. And he said something. I turned around. I said, what? He goes, no, not you, your boy. I said, okay. I said, Donnie, I think this guy wants to say something to you. So he said something. Within seconds, the fight broke out. I don't even know what it was said. Next thing I do is I just know I got knocked to the ground. There was probably 10 of them there, 15 of them. They just jumped on us. But little did they know that, the other side of the lunchroom table was our guys, the Third Street guys. And so, or some of us anyways. And then they just come running and take us out. As a matter of fact, I was underneath the table. I guess I got kicked or crawling underneath the table. I was getting pounced on, and I felt somebody pull me. It happened to be Raymond Barreras, pull me right out. And I had a black guy. I was a little messed up or whatever, but we went to the principal's office, and this guy, Mr. Pranovich, another really good guy, really liked him. He really had a lot of respect for us guys. He asked us not to do anything further because we had a lot of connections with older guys and stuff like that, and we were going to really take over the school and do some real damage, and he begged us not to, and we didn't. But we settled things later, and we can go into that later.
Right. So I guess what was your first impression of these guys and the gang, the members within it?
Well, I knew a lot of them. The guy who really brought me around later, right away, was Johnny Valenti, and Johnny Valenti's a good guy too. Very good friends with Chuck Zito. Matter of fact, I knew Chuck Zito go in and out because a lot of the Third Street guys we hung around the Chinglings, and every once in a while because Chucky Zito was a Hell's Angel, and he used to, I guess, go to the Chingling Nomads Club and stuff like that. So once in a while he would pass by, and I used to see him with his motorcycle and everything. And I would say hello, but I never really knew him. But then my cousin Ronnie Rella is very close to him, knows him very well. Everybody respects and loves my cousin Ronnie. But Johnny Valenti actually introduced me to him. So, but then he also brought me to the West End, and we just, I was friends with Johnny Valenti because of his mother, and my mother knew each other. Raymond's mother knew my mother. She was a beautician, used to go around cutting everybody's hair on the side after she didn't work for the place no more. And so she would do that on the side like that. And, so we kind of knew each other, but I liked a lot of the guys there. A lot of the guys were good. We were cool,
And was there any sort of like besides the initial scuffle that kind of led you into becoming friends with all these guys? Was there any sort of like initiation process to become a real part of the gang?
Well, and I mean, we rented out of clubs. We always had to come up with dues and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I was broke. I was a kid, and I really couldn't do much with the money. But they let me slide with it a lot of times, and but there was no real initiation like a Crip or a Blood or whatever other club gang or whatever you want to call them. But basically, the initiation was like if we went out and we had a problem, we all stuck together. And if you didn't fight, then we knew who you were. And then if you did, we knew who you was too. Like it kind of just, you fall into it. You know what I mean? Either you're who you are or not. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like me, a lot of guys knew that my father was who he was. I think at that time my father was in prison. He was on a drug charge back in those days, and he was doing time in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. But, all of us knew somebody, or we knew somebody else's uncle was connected, their father, or...
So there was multiple members of the Third Street Boys that were directly connected then to the...
Yeah, and that's why we started
Mafia.
exactly. That's why you start things like that, because we get together, we just talk, we shoot the shit, and we go to different clubs, we go out, stuff like that. Some people would gravitate even like other guys, like little groups in the club, because it was like 20 or 30 of us strong in there at one time or another. And then sometimes we would go out to the regular bars in the neighborhood. But sometimes we gravitate just a few of us going out. Like I used to hang around with this kid Lenny Montleone, and I would hang around with Louis Galello. They used to call him Scoop. He was a boxer too, tough kid. So was Lenny. Lenny was a tough kid too. Everybody there was pretty much able to fight. Very, very, very rare anybody would ever really be able to handle themselves. I don't know why, but I guess that's just the way we grew up. And you're always a product of your environment.
Was there a lot of fights going on in the streets at those times?
Yeah, I mean, it was whether we went to a bar or a club, whether we walked down the street, because in New Rochelle you had the Drake Avenue guys from Drake Avenue, obviously, different East Side kids, West Side kids, so we got along for the most part, but sometimes I don't know why we didn't like each other for some reason. It was such bullshit, but it was like, I still get along with the guys from the East Side to this day. Well, some of them anyways, because of my history. But other than that, we didn't even know why half the times we didn't like each other. I think it was just because they lived on one side of the neighborhood, and we did. It was like, I don't know, like my father's tougher than your father type of thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Ridiculous, but I guess we were bored. There was not a lot of outlets for us to do things. We did a little football when I was a kid. Stickball, like when we were younger and stuff, the usual stuff,
Right. What type of activities were members of the Third Street Boys getting up to on a daily basis?
Like activities, Paulie later on started doing like parties in the street. He'd hold parties, or we'd hold for 4th of July. We'd have all the fireworks. Then we'd have summertime parties. We'd set up a stage. Who would get up there and sing? We had music. A lot of girls would come around. So we did like little things like that. But he was very into like the entertainment business. He knew Jake LaMotta and those boxes, those old time boxes, which probably a lot of people don't even remember. So we were kind of nostalgic in that, so to speak.
Right. Do you still talk to anybody from the Third Street Boys?
No, no. Ever since I had that situation of mine, and plus I don't live in New Rochelle anymore, and of course, like I said, Paulie passed away. Uh, there was a lot of good guys there. Joe Bergamini. Joe Bergamini was almost 7 foot tall. Um, he would take us out in the van, but like I said, Lenny Montleone, Charlie Buono. Uh, it was a lot of guys. Louis Galello. I mean, look, I'm not going to reach out to call anybody. Not that I even know how to get in touch with them. I'm not trying to. But we just, you lose touch. Once it starts going away, you start losing touch. You know what I mean?
Right. You mentioned a lot of street fights and a lot of fighting going on at that time. What typically sparked these street fights, and how did they escalate, and how did you play a role in those? Were you typically the guy that was trying to calm people down, or were you the guy that was fighting?
Yeah, back in the days, there was really not hardly no guns or anything. That was a pretty big thing to bring a gun out back then. You just really had to have a fight. But either we'd be in a bar, something would happen with one of us. One of us got drunk. Who knows? Words got caught. Between somebody else. Something over a girl could be. Sometimes we'd even fight amongst ourselves if we have a disagreement. Like we go to, there used to be the Lollipop. There was Marty and Lenny's in my town, the second floor. So there was a couple of other bars too, like the Railroad Lounge, which we got into a big fight over. My friend Dominic Malucci got into a fight there. He was about to get married. The bouncers beat him up for no reason. So we all got together, and we came in from both sides of the place, and we tore up the place. And we gave them all a beating in there. Oh yeah, no, there was about maybe 15 of us. We weren't going to let Dominic pay. So that was one good thing. There was, I used to work with Johnny Valenti at the Central Mall Theater. Raymond used to work there too. So Johnny got me a spot there as the usher and everything. And we changed the marquee. Back then you had to get on the ladder. You had to do a lot of crazy stuff to change the marquee. And you make extra money for that. I was like 18 years old or whatever the case may be. But one time Raymond was working in the movie theater. So his mother and sister came in, and his sister had the baby, and there was these 3 guys from Harrison, New York, and they came in. I don't know what the hell they said, something stupid to the sister, Raymond's sister. So I'm watching. I think it was The Walking Dead, and so Lenny and I were there, and so Raymond sat next to me, and he goes, he was quiet, he didn't say nothing. I said, "What's up, buddy? Yeah, the movie's good and everything." He goes, I said, "Thanks for getting us in." He says, hang out till after the movie. I got it. He's got a problem. I said, "Oh, she's okay." So he got up and went back to work, and I said to Lenny, I said, "We got a problem. Raymond's got something going on. I don't know what it is." So we followed the guys back to the New Rochelle train station, and we caught the 3 of them there. I was already there with them, me and Lenny, and then Raymond came running down. And we tuned them up in the booth over there, where you wait for the train station, like the bus station. So we gave them a good beating, nice, and it was in the papers and stuff too. But those are the things that we used to do. We had plenty of fights. There was another kid who he didn't like me. They called him Newt. He was from Mamaroneck. I don't even know his real name. I used to fool around with his girl on and off for years, Lillian. She wound up dying of AIDS, believe it or not. But then, thank God, I'm okay. I didn't get AIDS. But I for years, we had this rival thing between me and him, and he had talked to me in the place, Marty and Lenny's. He goes, "Yeah, there's a guy here I don't like." I said, "Who is it?" I said, "Let me help you out." I knew he was talking about me, but I acted dumb. He said he hangs around with a lot of guys, and this and this and that, but this guy was like a junkie. So anyways, he's dead now. He's no loss to society, and unfortunately, she paid the price too. She's gone too. But yeah, so there was all kinds of different brawls. We had a fight with my friend Ralphie Coppola one time. Ralphie Coppola was in the Genovese crime family. He was a wise guy too. But we grew up together, and I said to him, we were gonna have a problem with these guys. And I said to him, Ralph, I says, we're gonna have a problem with some guys. He said, okay, listen. He says, don't do anything. He says, see if you could just squash it, or if it's just going to be ending. He said, but if not, give me the look, and I'll come in. I said, okay. So words were going to exchange. I went back over there, and then I looked at Ralph. He was looking at me. I went like this. I gave him the nod. He took his gold chain off, and we went in there. Wow, bing, bob. We started pounding. The whole fight broke out. Yeah, even the bouncers were afraid of us because we would beat up the bouncers too. Yeah,
Wow.
there's no problem.
So how many street fights do you think you personally have been in your life?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, even without the West End, even without the Third Street guys, I was a fight. You got to remember one thing in this life. You got to learn. You don't have to be the toughest guy in the world. You don't have to be a fighter. You don't have to look for fights or anything. Things will come your way for whatever reason, but you got to be able to defend yourself somehow, some way. I fought on my own. I guess I just did like anybody else did from when I was younger. I did do martial arts later on for about 3 years straight.
Oh, so you did have formal training.
Later on, yeah. I was like, it was like maybe 20 years old, 21, from like 20 to 24 years old, I think. And I used to help a lot of guys too get their black belts. They used to practice on me,
Are you a black belt?
No. I didn't really care about being a black belt. I was such in good shape at that time. I could stay up for 3 days without even nodding. I was skinny. I was very skinny. I think I was 135 pounds, maybe 140 pounds. I didn't get for about 10 years. I didn't get no heavier than 147 pounds. I got a picture of me. I mean, I was skin and bones, but muscular, and but I was in some shape. I was fast, and I had a lot of fun. I used to train 4 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday.
What discipline was it that you were training?
I trained in a system called Aikijitsu, which is Aikido, Jiu-Jitsu, and Karate.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so it was pretty good. So I got a little formal training, but listen, it's not always some about the skills. I mean, I used to practice at this one class up in Portchester, New York. And there was a big school up there. There was a kung fu school there. My friend, there was a girl I grew up with since I'm a kid, with Diane Tozo. She used to go out to seafood. Was this guy Raul? He was tough. I kind of was didn't really like him that much for some reason, and I don't know why Diane ever went with him. But she married a really nice guy now. This guy Chaz, really good guy. He's a good martial artist. My friend helped him with boxing as well. My friend JT, so he's a good guy. Matter of fact, that's one of the things I was talking to Chucky about too, because they had some words. They were making some videos together at one time. But Chaz is but I like Chaz and I liked Chucky too. So I was going to try to put a quick marriage with them together, try to resolve it, help them, because I was in the middle. I was going to try to get like that, but I didn't want to see nobody get hurt, and something so stupid that could be resolved so easily. You know what I mean?
Right.
But so I knew a lot of people. I remember when I was in Yonkers at the Raceway, there was some feast going on, and I won a stuffed animal, and Diane was standing there next to Raul. So I gave her the stuffed animal. No fooling around between Diane and I or anything like that. We were just very, very good friends. Her family, her sister, brother, they were good people. And her dad, I remember her father back in the days, and she used to live next to my friend Steve Rosado, and so I just gave it to her like that. I think I kind of wanted to start a fight with the guy Raul. I mean, he probably would have beat me up. I'm not going to say I could have won, because he was he was a Sifu. He was a black belt. He knew what he was doing. He's on the cover of martial arts magazines, So, but I just was like a little crazy back then. I just would have fought anybody. I don't care.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So I guess going back to the original question, how many street fights do you think, if you had to say, are you in the 40, 50, in the hundreds?
Oh yeah, I probably definitely had about 50 fights. Yeah, since I'm a kid. Oh God, yeah.
Wow.
Without a doubt, yeah. Yep. Then that's just me by myself. Not I don't know how many of the other guys had.
Right.
Yeah, definitely had at least 50 of them.
So out of 50 fights, I'm sure you dealt with injuries from time to time. What sort of injuries did you deal with?
Well, I got jumped most of the time. I got jumped from these guys in Eastchester. I got a scar over my right eye. Got hit in the face with a beer bottle. Went to this place, a Chinese restaurant, to meet some friend of mine. Well, actually, it was a friend of Lenny's. And we went there, and They just jumped us. You know, we started talking shit. They hit me with the beer bottle. The one guy was actually riding my back. I didn't even know, but I was in a cubby hole where you walk it through the front door, so I know they couldn't do it. But believe it or not, these guys were punks, but they were all had money, like that. They were like spoiled brats, like in a way, but they were punks. And I mean, to this day, if I saw any of them, I would fight them right now, just to give them a beating. But I went to the hospital. I got like 7 stitches and went right back out that night too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but I got jumped a lot of times. Yeah, I got beat up a few times. I had a fight one-on-one. A lot of times I wasn't the toughest guy. I had a fight with this kid, Damon Romanelli. Romanello, maybe, I think his last name was. He was a tough kid. Matter of fact, he joined the Marines just to learn how to fight. But I wasn't afraid of him. He knew it. And he got me. All the people that were around watching the fight, he kicked me in the face, all this stuff. And I got up. They couldn't even believe I was winning. You know what I'm saying? But or like even able to take the beating. So the cops came, and I knew the cops. And he happened to rob the New Rochelle toll booth at one time for like $250,000. He was going to jail for that. And what happened was, excuse me, the seltzer water. But cops came, they saw me, and he thought I was going to say to him, they said, "What do you want to do here, Joe?" I said, let him go. I said, we had a fight. That was it. And he told everybody he knew, I didn't get him arrested or anything like that. That's not who we were. You know what I mean?
Right.
I took my beating like a man. That's it. And I stayed out of my house for about 3 days, and then I went back, and I didn't see my father for 3 days, and I was still bruised up and everything. And he said, "Hey, you, what happened to you?" I said, "Well, I got a little scuffed." He said, "You looks like you didn't win." I said, "Well, I ain't the toughest guy around that, but yeah, he was pretty tough. But he's a good guy in real life. He's a nice guy. He actually shot a guy in a delicate test that he shot. I think I don't know if the guy was related to him or not. This big dude, Raul. He was a tough guy too. He almost shot his whole leg off. So Damon was tough too. He was a little crazy. And
God.
oh yeah, no, people were afraid of him. I just wasn't afraid because I'm just not. I won't be afraid. You know what I'm saying? I win, I lose. You kill me, you beat me, you may whatever. I don't know. Whatever happens. But I'll be the first to tell you I'm not the toughest guy in the world.
So earlier you mentioned something about run-ins with rival kind of guys up the east. You were from the West End. They were, guys up the East End and that sort of thing. What were some rival gangs or groups in that area that you guys had, brushed shoulders with?
Well, it was like I said, because we were from the West Side. It was sometimes the guys from the East Side. I don't know what happened. One of the guys Dolfo DeZenzo said he got into a fight, got jumped, but he didn't get jumped, but he lied to us. And then my friends Lenny and then a few of the guys, they had a fight with Charlie and them. They had a fight with them and everything. And then, of course, it escalates. It escalates from a few guys to, it can get bigger because it depends on, who's saying, who goes back and says the truth or whatever, and it's not right. Dolfo never got jumped. Yeah, if he did get jumped, of course, then we would have stuck up for him. Now, Dolfo in his own right is tough. Short, he's not that big. He's a DeZenzo. He's a tough guy. Almost all the DeZenzos could fight, okay? But I think from what I understand, he lied. He didn't get jumped. He fought one guy one-on-one, but he came back and said, they jumped me. And so then they got into a big fight. I wasn't there at that fight, though, at that time, for some reason. I don't know why. But even since we're kids, I've been fighting with Adolfo myself. I've been fighting with him since 4th grade. He would just start fighting with you for no reason. So I had about 3 or 4 fights with Adolfo. He just then he started learning how to do. He was doing martial arts. He became a better fighter. He wasn't really that great of a fighter, but he'd fight anybody in the world. I don't care how big you are, and I seen him do it. But the rival gang part, it just depends on the situation. Whether you could be in a bar, they're over there, we're over here. For some reason, they didn't like us, or we didn't like them, or whatever. It happens. You know what I mean? I can't explain why, but it just happens, and then hopefully somebody will get a squash. We used to have football games with other guys from Pelham. Every time you had a football game with somebody, guaranteed there's a fight. During the game, after the game, whatever, you know what I mean? And then sometimes we'd all go to the bar and have a beer. Like, yeah, black guy, you did pretty good, pal. It was just crazy.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So there was no, I guess, then there was no real organized kind of gangs that were there wasn't like the Fourth Street Boys. There was just
Yeah.
you guys up there in the West End.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't like that. I mean, like I said, we were the Third Street Boys. Pretty much, people knew we were all together. That created enough fear for most people.
Right.
We were friends with everybody. Really, I couldn't even tell you the reasons why people didn't like us for some reason, whatever. But we've had caused a lot of fights in a lot of bars. There's a lot of write up in the papers about us. You know what I mean? Back in those days, they didn't know it was us, but just said, "Oh, these guys came into the bar at 1 o'clock in the morning," and they lied about us too. They said we couldn't get in, they wouldn't let us in, or whatever. A lot of that stuff was lies and bullshit. But there was, like I said, we were strong because we were a group, and we did stick together. We really did. But sometimes there was even some rival within the club itself too. I remember my friend Joe Colangelo, and I still call him my friend, but he came to me one time and said, "Joe, I heard you were talking about me and this and this and that." I said, "Joe, get the guy who was saying it then, because I didn't talk about you. I'm right here, right now. I mean, I don't, it's not like I really care for you or you really care for me, but you don't have to make any excuses." He pulled me outside like a man. I told him, "You don't have to make any excuses. If you just want to have a problem with me, just say I don't like you, fuck you or whatever, and we'll fight. That's up to you." I did that with another guy, Arnold Brazan. This guy Arnold, I think he's like a wise guy now too. His father knew my father's. His brother's a really good guy, Ralphie, but he was like connected to Arnold and stuff, and Arnold Brazano was his name, and he pulled me down the street, made me want to walk around the block to have a fight with me. I'm like, "What do you want to walk around the block for?" I tried to be nice to him, but he was just an asshole a lot of times, and I would have fought him too, and he knows it. But if he was such tough or whatever, why could he just swing on me right there? Nobody was going to jump on him. It would have been just a one-on-one, win or lose.
Right. Did you ever get arrested for any street fighting, or any, beating anybody up or anything like that?
Well, yeah, I've been arrested for it too. But a lot of times we ran away from the cops. If there was a big brawl, we knew the cops would come. We ran away. There was a lot of times we were hiding,
right?
Stuff like that. But yeah, I had a fight in my town with the cops. It was about maybe it was a Saturday. Never forget. I worked overtime. I used to be a custodian at a junior high school in the Bronx. So I was dating this girl. I was only like 21, 22 years old. I was young. And I says, all right, so I worked till like 12 o'clock. I called up the flower shop in New Rochelle right on North Avenue. And so I told them that to give me a dozen roses. I wanted to pick up roses for my girl at that time. So I pulled into this off the street because there was no parking. I pulled into this driveway, like it was fine. It said no parking, fire lane or whatever. In the driveway, whatever. So I parked there. It was only going to be a few minutes. I ran inside. I knew the guy. They had the flowers. I paid the guy. I said hello for 2 minutes. I walked outside. This guy, I seen a ticket on the car. I said, "Son of a bitch." Now, I just got through paying $1,000 worth of tickets. I says, "What the frig, man?" So I look around. I don't see the cop. I'm like, fuck, how fast did this guy see me going there? So I'm looking at the ticket. I'm standing there. Some lady says, "Oh, it's the guy on the corner that gave you a ticket." So I back the car out. I go up to the corner. It's the corner on North Avenue and Main Street. I get on Main Street. I pulled over like in a double park. I get out of the car. I says to the guy, and I was nasty to him too. I said, "Give me this fucking ticket." He goes, "Yeah, I gave you that fucking ticket." I said, "I tell you what, I'm going to take you care of because somebody I know." I says, "Well, you ever see this car again, don't ever think about it." And that's the kind of guy I was back then.
What did he say?
He didn't say anything. I just turned the back away, and I was getting in my car, and I got in the car, and he reached into the car to try to turn it off. I guess he was going to... I didn't know that there was cops walking the beat. On this Saturday, it was a hot afternoon. They had all the stores had clothes out and stuff, so they had like a big thing. It was almost like a feast, but it wasn't a feast. So I kicked the door open, and because he tried to reach into the car. I said, "What?" I kicked the door open. He went flying back. Boom, I give him one shot. I knocked him down. I knocked him out. He was out cold. Some detective came, and because he came out of the car, I pulled over. He goes, "Oh, what are you doing here?" Boom, I cracked him. Two other cops came. One grabbed me from behind, and I used my martial arts skills back then. So I went under behind him, and I grabbed him where you ain't supposed to grab him, in his private area there, and I squeezed, and I headbutted him. I stepped on his foot. He went, "Ah!" ah! Two other cops come running down. They started hitting me with the sticks. So I started blocking myself now because the guy let me go. And I started blocking myself and everything. And I said, okay, all right. Because, you know, they were all beating on me now. And I says, they handcuffed me and everything. And all the people going, that's him, officer. We saw him hit this guy and this and that. I says, I'm going to come back and break all your store windows. I told him just like that. I says, I was a little wild, you know. Well, I got arrested and everything. So my attorney then, Paul Kaminsky, comes down. I guess my father called him, whatever the case may be. I get out of jail. Nobody pressed charges on me, believe it or not, because of my father, I guess, and everything. I still wanted to pay. I had to pay the lawyer $500, and I still had to pay the $100 ticket. I said all of that, and I still got to pay the ticket. Well, it is what it is, you know. Yeah. But I got out of it, you know. But I did get arrested that time.
So, what other kind of?
Let me tell you one other thing.
Yeah, sure.
So there was a guy in my town, the Carusos. They're very well known in the town. Vinny Caruso used to sell me weed back in the days. He had a delicatessen, didn't get along with his family. They had a delicatessen. And so Frank Caruso, he was a good guy or whatever too. But we wound up having a problem. Lenny and I, there was some people in there, some whatever it was. I forget exactly how it started, but we had a problem in the place. So I don't know what happened. We got into a fight with the son there, the Ray. I don't know if he's still alive now either, but we got into a fight with him, Ray. He tried to grab Lenny when we were having the problem, and I threw the guy around. I got him good. He was way bigger than me too, but I got him. And I was a little bit bloody on the nose a little bit because while we were fighting in there, the father came in. He grabbed me from behind. I was trying to do this with him, and I was bent over, but the brother kept hitting me. I got a scar on my nose from the brother. I was able to get the father off of me, but Lenny didn't want to hit them because they were his neighbors. So I'm really doing all the fighting. So I got the father off of me, and I was trying to get out the door, and I was pushing the door, but it was one of the doors you got to pull. I didn't know. I forgot when I walked in. I pushed it open, but I duked up the guy, Ray Caruso. So now we go to the Wise Guy Club where my father was hanging out. And I just wanted to get rinsed up. I was all dressed up, ready to go out. I just wanted to get rinsed off and everything, cleaned up, and then go out. My father saw me. He said, what happened? I said, I got into a fight. He says, Ray Caruso? Now, the father, I think, was Ray, too. So anyways, we go back there, and my father's got the hockey stick. Lenny didn't want to go back. So it was me, Lenny, my father. We go. I had Charlie Buono's two-door 1971 or 72 coupe. I pull up in front of the place. We go in there. My father says, now they're there. The father's there. Raymond's there. Frankie's there. And their mother's there. And these other guys, I forget, we used to call them the Mushroom Brothers or something. I forget, one of the guys worked there. And so we went in, and my father started whacking him with the hockey puck, with the stick. Bing, bah, boom. And they were all trying to grab the stick from my father. I'm going, look out, that, bing, boom. I'm dropping guys now. I felt something on my leg. I said, what the hell is this? And it was a little old lady. She was kicking my leg. They're kicking her. And I went like this, and I held back not to hit her. And I didn't. And it was a good thing I did. I'll tell you why. Well, my father gave one guy 7 stitches with the stick. And one of the guys had said to me, Joe, where did you learn how to fight like that? Because the big brother, he came and charged at me. And I just flipped him around the table. He went flying over the table. It looked just like out of a movie, you know? We had to go to court. They did arrest me later on then, too. And everything, and the cops were going, oh, what's the matter? What'd you go in there and beat up the guy for? Did they owe your father money or something? I told Lenny, don't say nothing. That was it. See, back then I was good. Fuck you, you know what I mean? And we didn't talk. And so we beat the charges. We had to go to court, and it was done. What happened was we got the charges dropped because the little old lady was cheating on her husband.
No.
With a guy that my father knew. I never knew any of this. My father told me after. How did we get all the charges dropped? And that was it. And that's how we won the case. No problem.
Wow.
Yep. My father said to the guy with the 7 stitches, no, I'm going to take care of your hospital bill. Don't worry. My father never paid him.
Wait, how old was the lady?
Oh, she was older than us. I mean, she was a little old lady. She was like maybe, well, let's see. I was in my 20s, 21, 22 years old then. So she must have been maybe, Frank was a little older than me. So maybe she was 60s. 7? Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. She was cheating on her husband, yes.
70 years
She
old.
might have been fit in the 50s. She was a little short thing. She had the shoes on, those big black old things back in the days.
Yeah.
Forget about her.
Oh, jeez. You mentioned earlier about a nightclub that the Third Street Boys would rent out. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, it was in a nightclub. It was just a club. It was in a building, like, but it would be like a storefront that we rented out. We fixed it up. We had couches and stuff,
It
and
was like a social club for you?
yeah, like a social club for us. Yeah.
Okay.
So we used to. That's where we used to congregate there. We all used to meet up there before we'd go out. Some guys would go out like 2 or 3 of us, and then we go to one place. Another guys would go other places. Depending on what we did, we wanted to break it up a little bit. And we all used to go to the Thruway Diner afterwards. We used to go in the Thruway Diner. I had a fight in the Thruway Diner more than once.
Did they kick you out?
Yeah, but then they let us back in. First they said, "Yeah, we can't let you back in." then we didn't go in. We had a little problem with the owners, and then we didn't do nothing to them because we wanted to go back in. And then we went through the proper channels, and they said, "Okay, no fights, please, please, everything." Hey, listen, you got guys. This is what it is. Oh, those fights were good too. Cheesecake would be thrown. I threw a piece of cheesecake with this guy. It went like this, plop, like right on his face, just like the thing, One time I'm sitting in there, it was me, my friend Mike Donato, Lenny, and Patsy. And we were all in there, and we were in the diner, and we're sitting there, and I'm in the booth. I'm over here next to the window. I think Lenny, I think Patsy or Lenny was sitting next to me, but Mike was right across from me. And either one of them was over there. This guy walked by, and he was walking by, and he looked at me with the look like. So I saw him looking at me. I said, oh, fuck, maybe the guy's drunk or something. I don't know. I didn't say nothing. He comes back out of the bathroom because that's where he was walking to. He comes back out of that bathroom part, and he looked at me going, So I went like this. I was surprised, but I didn't tell anybody. But Mike saw it. I said, oh, you saw it? He goes, yeah, I saw that. Well, we got up. Him and his friend went outside. I went outside. Bing, boom, boom. I tuned them up. And then that was it, the end of that. Quick fight, no problem. We didn't jump him. I beat the guy up all by myself, no problem. That's kind of a gentleman I was with my friends. And then the next night I got beat up by the kid Damon. So it just happens, you know what I mean? But it was like a fight all the time. I was fighting back to back, day to day,
Wow.
Yeah, that's just where you grow up.
And were you known as a good fighter amongst these people and kind of in the area?
I don't know if they thought of me like that. I never heard anything like that. I think they just knew that I would fight because that's like you get started like that's how you get started. Almost everybody that gets involved in the mafia starts off in some sort of a club, a gang, a few guys they hang around with that are known to cause trouble maybe or whatever because this is how you get going, you know what I mean? And so when I used to start loan shark of money, then a lot of people knew that even if I lost the fight, you'd always have a problem with my friends. That's it.
Right.
I mean, I couldn't even go to the mall and not even have a fight. I had a fight in the malls. It just happens. People. Shit, I remember some guy said, "What are you looking at?" Well, that's it. If a guy was, I mean,
That was a fighting word.
it was a fight words. Yeah, it was like there was guys that were looking at the store windows when I'd walk Main Street, and he'd be looking at me in the car, and he'd stare at me for a second. So, what's your problem? And I'd walk right up to the car and punch him in the window. So I don't know what it was, but we were just young and whatever. You think you're Superman.
How many times have you not prison, but just county jail? How many times have you been locked up for stuff like this?
Yeah, I didn't get caught too many times. Maybe 3, 4, 5 times, maybe. So I had a lot of what they used to lower the charge to disorderly conduct.
So you never got really any serious time for any kind of fighting or anything like that. But
no.
And then you did obviously the 2 bids, the one for the murder for hire, and then the other one, which
the first one was for loan sharking.
The first one was loan sharking, right?
Yeah, and then the other one was for the murder for hire. Yep.
Right. How
those
many
are the
years
longest
total
bids.
were those 2?
Well, I did. I got 4 years the first time. I did exactly 3 years and 6 months to the door. I didn't want to take the halfway house. And then the other one, I did 19 months, but 15 of them I was locked up in the box, which is the SHU they call it, segregation,
Right.
Special housing unit. And that really did a toll. That you get like every 2 days for every 1 day you do there, they say, or something like that they give you because it's harder on you. You're locked up 23 hours a day, and on the weekends you're locked up 24 hours a day. So, yeah, I did enough time.
Right.
I think, I mean, there's other guys who've done a lot longer. I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody, but look, nobody wants to go to jail. I mean, it's just part of the thing that you do, you know what I mean? But, it's if you believe in something and you do your thing, you got to go to jail. You know what you're doing. You got to go. Sometimes you're gonna have to take a hit.
Right.
Nobody's perfect.
You knew the risk involved.
Of
Yeah.
course, you always know you're gonna take a thing. You know what I'm saying? It's like anything else.
I wanted to ask you earlier, was there anything that the Third Street Boys were doing together in a sort of an organized way that, what kind of operations were you guys involved in?
Oh, you mean like making money, like doing
Yeah,
things like
what
that?
kind of things were you?
We all
you
had
guys
our
doing
own
to
little
make money?
hustles. Yeah, we all had our own little hustles here and there. And don't forget, the '70s was a good era for some people, like the wise guys. But we would try to get our own hustles, try to do scores. We'd have to get like regular jobs or stuff like that too. So we didn't really like have really such great things. I mean, some people we do anything, whatever it would take. If you sold drugs, or you sold anything, we do anything, whatever it would do to get money. There's no limit to what you won't do. It's just dependent on how. I mean, I was selling weed at the time myself too. I was selling what they used to call loose joints back then. I got started selling loose joints. Man, back then you get a dime bag. It was a lot of weed, so I'd roll them up with two different papers in it, so that it looked like it was fatter than what it was. It was only a little weed in there. You sell it for $1. You buy three. I give it to you for $2. That kind of thing. So you try to make a little bit of money. Yeah, that's how bad the times was. I mean, for some people. I mean, don't forget at one time I was on welfare and food stamps back in those days. My mother, my father was away, and so things were tough. But we do whatever we had to do.
Right.
We'd rob, steal, do whatever it was. If you better not tell us where the money is.
How did being involved with these guys eventually lead you into meeting people like Dominic and becoming more of a earner in that sense?
You get noticed. The way I fell in with Dominic was a lot different. It was because I was sort of dating his cousin and stuff like that. That's how I got around Dominic. But the other street guys know you, like if you're around, because the Wise Guy Club was right up the block from our club. So they'd see us hanging out. They
Brushing shoulders and
Yeah.
who's dating whose
Sure.
sister and
then if you knew somebody there, or they knew who your father was, like everybody knew who my father was, I could walk into the club anytime I want. I say hello to Frankie Famara or some people like that. Hey, how you doing, pal? Like this and that. How you doing, kid? You all right? You staying out of trouble? Say hello to your father, all that kind of stuff like
Right,
that. You know
right.
what I mean? They pretend like everybody's your friend, but they're all out for themselves. Trust me when I tell you. That's the wise guy code.
So what kind of led you to leaving this group, or did it just happen slowly over time, or
Yeah, you go your own way.
kind of just slowly faded out? You stopped talking to some of the guys, and
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. I mean, you still stay friends, but you're not as organized and not together. Who gets married, who gets a girlfriend, who gets arrested, who gets to be associated, that can't do certain things with a job. Maybe you don't want to get looked at. So look, everybody kind of goes their own way because you got to live. You got to make money. You gotta support yourself. You know what I mean? So that's you just go your separate ways after a while.
who was the most successful member of the Third Street Boys, or I guess kind of who went on to did anybody go on to become a made man or anything like that?
Well, there was a guy, my friend Louis Galello, and then his partner Larry, who was also around us too. They had a plumbing business. They wound up selling. I think they wound up selling. I think they had like they had 900,000 back some years back for it. So they split that themselves. I mean, people like that. I mean, did anybody ever get strained out? Well, Johnny was around these guys. Johnny was good friends with Big Ernie Mascarelli. And Big Ernie's a really good guy, and he's in the Genovese family. I knew him very well. He was tough too. Ooh, he was tough. Yeah, he's really. But he was one of those guys that's. He's just a real good guy all around. You can't talk really nice about him as opposed to if he knew you and liked you, I mean, I talked to him a lot of times. I mean, he just was a really good guy. So, Johnny was good friends. Matter of fact, I think that's how Johnny got my friend Raymond in the Bricklayers Union. I think he's like a foreman down there now, Raymond. So, I'm very happy for him. So, like I said, you kind of you got to go your own way. You got to eat. You got to make money. You gotta live.
Right.
And sometimes you have to break away from certain things. Look, like you got band members. Sometimes a guy will go solo and go away from the band. Hopefully, it's not with hard feelings. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's where you try to leave it. You don't want to burn bridges, unless you don't want to see nobody no more. Then you burn that bridge and make sure it's burned good.
Was there any kind of stuff like that within the gang? Anybody that did you guys ever have to kick anybody out for anybody have to?
Depends. Yeah, that's right. There was a lot of times. Some there was not a lot of times, but there was sometimes you'd have to excommunicado, like they said in that movie John Wick. But he excommunicated. Sometimes you gotta get you gotta chase a guy, whether he might be doing too much drugs or something, or too drunk all the time, or causing too much trouble for us and stuff like that. Charlie Buono was like that. Charlie Buono, I don't became like a junkie, drug addict for whatever reason. He had a lot of good potential with a lot of good things. He had a good punch, very hard punch, like a sledgehammer, could take a good punch. But he was one of those guys you just don't want to hang around with because he was always into trouble. Always drunk, stoned, whacked. I mean, yeah. So, those kind of people you want to get away from.
Right. Well, that's all the questions I have for you today, Joe.
Okay.
Unless you want to talk about anything else, or you mentioned something about that you wanted to mention with Dominic and.
Yeah, like I said, Dominic and I we're trying to put something together as opposed to a lot of different other things. But we're gonna get together. I'm just waiting for him to coordinate it a little bit better because his schedule is a little bit more busy than mine. Even though I do have my own schedule as well. And as soon as he puts something together, I'm gonna go down and meet him. We're gonna sit down and for a while, and we're gonna answer a lot of questions that a lot of people had thrown at us. I know he has them written down because we don't want to leave any viewers, like the viewers here and stuff. We don't want to anybody sends a question in or whatever. We just want to make sure that you guys are the viewers. We want to do the right thing.
If you want to see, if you guys want Dominic and Joe to talk about anything specific, you can write in questions to our email, Goodfellow Podcast at gmail.com, and I'll pass those along to Dominic. And if you have any questions for us on our show, just go ahead and send those in as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. If you like the show, feel free to leave a comment, thumbs up, subscribe.
Subscribe, yes.
And we really appreciate it. And thanks. Take care.